Hey everybody, it's April 17th, 2020, and we're still quarantined, right? It sucks. So let's do something. Let's do something to make us ready for the next time we're quarantined, because we all know this isn't going to be the last time. So we're going to do some canning, a canning video today, and we're going to can beef stew. I'm here to tell you, it can't get any easier than this. All you need, pressure canner, jars, potatoes, celery, carrots, and beef. I'm using stew beef and some seasoning. Also some tomatoes that I canned last year. Tomatoes really do help the meat get all seasoned up and tender. I'm going to show you how easy it is. There's no cooking involved. It's going to be awesome. First things first, we're going to add potatoes. Now these jars that you see right there, I've already sterilized them. And I used my dishwasher on high heat dry. It washed them and sterilized them, so they're good to go. We peeled the potatoes. I'm going to cut them into larger chunks. Because this has to pressure can for 90 minutes, I don't want them turning to mashed potatoes. So we're keeping them in bigger chunks. Now why should we can? Well, you know everything that's going in this, so there's no preservatives, none of that stuff. It's healthier. Well, why don't we freeze instead of canning? Well, because what if your freezer, the power goes out and your freezer goes out, your freezer breaks down? These can at room temperature and they'll last up to 2 years. Isn't that awesome? So now we're going to add some carrots. Once again, I got baby carrots. Why? Because they're already peeled. They're small. I cut them in half. Bam. We got carrots. I'm going to put just as much as you want in. And the ease of this recipe is you can put whatever you like in your beef stew. If you want mushrooms, add it. If you want big chunks of onion, add it. We're going to do beef, carrots, and celery in this. So simple. Speaking of celery, check out this way I learned how to cut celery. Isn't that awesome? I don't know why I find it so thrilling, but I just saw it the other day on someone else's channel, and I thought, oh, hey, bonus. That's the best way to do it. So what I'm doing here with my celery is I'm grabbing some of the leaves, because there's tons of flavor, and then mostly stalk. But there's not as many leaves as there are stalk, so that's why I'm doing it this way. So every jar of all 5 jars of mine will have some stalk and some leaves for flavor. Super duper easy. Anything hard so far? No, I don't think so. So now we're going to add the beef. Like I said, I have stew meat. You can use any kind of meat you have. Steak, roast, doesn't matter. You can even do chicken, make chicken stew. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to divvy it up. I have 2 packets of stew meat for 5 jars. And I'm going to press it in there. When I was doing this, my wife's like, oh my gosh, you're getting close to the top. Not a problem. Just give it a shove down. We're going to pack it in anyway. So I'm going to evenly distribute the meat between all the jars. I know my camera angle is not the best, but it will get better, I promise. So here we go. I have all the meat in the jars. Now we're going to prep the lids. Now, do not boil your lids and rings to sterilize. They're pretty sterile. I bring water to a boil, and then I turn it off, and then I put my rings and lids in. And I do this because the whole purpose of doing this is to soften up that gummy ring edge. So I just add enough water and I let it sit in warm water, not boiling. Now we're going to add our seasoning. I use dehydrated onion for 2 reasons. 1, it has a very strong onion flavor, but pleasant. And 2, it takes up very little room. And it's just like the White Castle onions, they're going to swell once they get inside. Next thing we're going to add is Lowry's seasoned salt, but any seasoned salt will do. So I'm adding a teaspoon. I added a teaspoon of the dehydrated onions, and I'm doing a teaspoon of Lowry's seasoned salt. And that's all the salt I'm going to use. You can always add more salt later. Next, I'm going to do a half a teaspoon of onion powder. I know I added onion, but this will help with the flavor of the broth and everything too. So, half a teaspoon of onion powder. And then after that, here comes the biggie. This is that better than bouillon paste. It's the beef flavor. This stuff packs a punch, so I'm only going to do a 1/4 teaspoon. That's it in every jar. Bam, you can see it right there. So I'm going to scrape it off into every jar. And I'm going to do, like I said, a 1/4 teaspoon. It's going to add so much flavor, and it is better than bouillon cubes. Bouillon cubes often have more salt than anything else in them. This just gives you that like cooked all day flavor. Now these tomatoes I canned 2 years ago. Tomato helps the meat get tenderized, and it just gives a little extra something something. So I'm going to put just like a spoonful of tomatoes in every jar because I am running out of space. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the juice. Next, I had a kettle on, and it's boiling water. And I'm going to put this in here, and you're going to slowly let it drizzle down until I get them all full. The reason you don't use cold water is because the pressure canner is already on the stove. And if you put cold jars into hot water, they'll break. So this is hot water from the kettle. So this way the jars will be very warm and they won't bust open when you get them inside. Now, once you get all the jars filled with water, this is a super important step. Using a plastic, non-metallic device, get in there, and you want to go all the way to the bottom and push it all around on every side. This gets rid of air bubbles. Air bubbles are very bad in the canning world as they will house bacteria and make all your food spoil. So, very, very important. Another important step, which I did not record, I thought I did, but I had it turned off, is you're going to take a mixture of white vinegar and water and a paper towel, and you're going to wipe off with a damp paper towel of that solution the rim and the rings to every one of these jars. And the reason for this is you want to get any microscopic food particles or meat or anything that would prevent a good seal. Super important. Air bubbles and wiping the rims. Now, I've already wiped off my rims. I'm going to use, yep, that's what I'm saying right there. I'm going to use my magnetic little grabber-do, and I'm going to get, you can see I have largemouth and smallmouth. So I'm just going to put it on top there, and I'm going to tighten it just hand tight. Don't go too tight. Otherwise, you could crimp the top open, and that will also prevent a seal. So you just put it on there tight, because they're going to come off anyway after we're done. So we're just going to put these on, and we're going to load them into the pressure canner. Now, unlike hot water bath canning, where you submerge it, you can see I only have 2 inches of water in here. That's all you need, because it's going to boil and create steam, which creates pressure. Super intense heat and pressure. Now, I don't like my jars to touch, but if they do, it's not the end of the world. A lot of people fear pressure canners because of this reason, of the pressure. But they've really come a long way, and if you follow the right rules and you pay attention to what you're doing, you will never have an accident. So, you can see I got them in there. I'm going to put this lid on, and then I'm going to twist it in and close it in place. You can see those notches. It locks in place super tight. And this is a steel canner, so it's not going to blow up. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to crank the heat up onto high. See that little thing bubbling there? That needs to rise up. It's just a vent plug. And the more pressure gets in there, it'll raise up and seal it off tight as a drum. This is the waiting game. So you can watch this thing for a good 15 minutes. That's how long it took for it to go up. But with the magic of editing, this is what happens. Booyah. See it doing a little dance? Rise. Rise up, I say. It fools you forever. You're like, are you going to go up? Are you going to? There it goes. And boom. Solid. Tight as a drum. That means you have good pressure. And this little vent right here, you're going to let that vent for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Super important. After 10 minutes, then we will put on the weight. So it's been 10 minutes of that constantly venting on high. And so what we're going to do, oh, there I am turning off the timer. We're going to put the weight on. Some pressure cookers have different pound weights. Mine only came with one. So here's our pressure gauge. Once it hits 10, we're going to turn the heat down. So that's almost at 10 pounds of pressure. This is an important step too. So you turn it way down low. But if it drops below 10, you have to restart your timer. So I have it at 10. You leave it alone. I set the timer for 90 minutes. After 90 minutes, I have to wait for the pressure to go down to 0 and that that pressure valve on the left there to drop. It has done it. So now it's time to enjoy motion sickness from my handy camera angles. I take off the weight first. Any additional steam will come out there. Now it's important when you lift this, it's full of super hot. Open it away from you. Don't give yourself a scalding facial. It will burn your face clean off. So, now that we have the lid off, it has to sit another 10 minutes with the jars in there. This prevents them from getting shocked by any cold air outside of there and cracking. So now, because I have my towel set up next to the sink, I'm going to bring the whole thing over there, grab my little tongy grabber guys, and I'm going to lift them out and set them on a paper towel. You can see that they're still boiling inside the jar. And then you're going to hear ping, ping as the jars start to cool. That means you got a great seal on it. You can also tell after they cool if they have a good seal by pressing in the center of the lid. If it doesn't move and it stays in that down position, concave, that means you got an excellent seal. So we're going to let these sit for 24 hours. Then I'm going to remove the rings and store them. They can store up to 2 years. It's that simple, folks. Jimmy Dixon.